can you tell us a little bit about your most memorable day in court?
I've got two, really, I think. One was memorable because it was so hurtful. It was a real put-down experience. It was, I think in my first or second week at the bar, I was asked by a floor colleague to take a judgment in Mr Justice Hope's court, and he was going to give his judgment at 2 o'clock that afternoon. And normally to take a judgment, you just go there, announce your appearance, sit down, take the note of the judgment, ask for costs maybe, and that's that. But it turned out that afternoon that the judge gave an extempore judgment. It took over 2 hours, and it was an important land and environment judgment, I think it was. And the court was absolutely packed with the public and the press. At the end of the judgment, the judge asked me to give undertakings that I hadn't been given any instructions to make. So I asked him for time to telephone my colleague, and it was by then after 4 o'clock, and to ask for the instructions. And the judge said I could go to his chambers and use the telephone there to make a call. These days you'd use a mobile phone, of course. But when the judge said, you can use my chambers, the elderly barrister on the other side, and I don't think he was silk then, but he was not a pleasant person, and he stood up and he said, can I go with her to your chambers, Your Honour, to make sure she knows what she's doing? And I was so humiliated by that. And I thought, I didn't say anything, he went with me, and I rang, and my colleague then came up and gave the necessary undertakings. Years later, of course, I would have had a crushing response ready for him, but I was brand new and a novice. And years later, of course, he wouldn't have dared to say it because people like that only pick on the vulnerable novice. But it was an unfortunate experience, and I didn't experience anything like that again.
Did you tell your father about it when you had a chance to catch up with him? Did he advise you anything about how to deal with people like that? Or, I mean, not necessarily your father, of course, but anyone like maybe Bob St John, did you speak to him about it?
I don't think so. I thought, this is part of the rough and tumble of the bar that my father warned me about.
Yes, the late Joan Rosenove QC said that in order to be successful as a barrister, you had to have a hide like a rhinoceros, and when they kick you in the teeth, you must look as though you hadn't noticed it.
Look as though it hasn't hurt you, I think, is more important. And rise above it. You don't go down to the gutter with them. You rise above it.
Would have been very difficult, nevertheless, and awful thing to take home with you, I'm sure. What about a really good experience in court?
Well, an interesting one was I was counsel assisting in the Juanita Nielsen inquest. She was a lady in King's Cross who'd been fighting against developers, and she disappeared and presumed dead. You may not have heard about it in Victoria, but it was quite a high-profile case in New South Wales.
Yes, they based the film The Killing of Angel Street on the Juanita Nielsen disappearance, I believe.
Yes. And it involved some really shady characters from King's Cross underworld. And I was cross-examining one of them. He was known as a colourful King's Cross underworld identity. And he was in the witness box, and I was examining him, and all of a sudden he dived to the and disappeared from view. It turned out that he had been in partnership with another of these colourful characters, but now was an enemy of this colourful character. And he dived to the floor because he'd noticed what turned out to be a window cleaner at the skylight in the roof of the court, and thought that the window cleaner was an assassin come to shoot him in the witness box.
He clearly had reason to be nervous.
Exactly.
So, you never had any fears for your own personal safety while you were doing that case, did you?
No. I remember one time, whether it was in, yes, it was in that case, where somebody had a passport stolen or some robbery in their house, and I came home one day to find one of my drawers had been sort of disrupted. Someone had obviously been into a drawer, and I quickly rang the police who were instructing me and said, look, I think maybe I've been the subject of something too. It turned out that it was my daughter looking for a bracelet or something in my drawer. But in the meantime, the police came racing out and had a look around. So I must have had some fears to have done that.